Okay. Hello, everybody. Hey, Kimberly. I see you posted something in the pre-stream chat. I hope I didn't miss you. I know the time was different. Hello, everybody. Hey, Nabiru. I see you were watching the raft stream earlier, Nabiru. Let me let people know that I'm live. Okay. Let's do some blue sky stuff. Hey, anime lover. Hey, Zeus. Hello, Noel Main. Hello, Forever. Hi, everybody. But yes, I see you over there, anime lover, on Twitch. Alrighty. Let's get rolling. Alrighty. Would help if I boot up my model. Tonight we are doing armor with red cape. I'll put the helmet on when we get to the character creation stuff later. Alrighty, welcome in everybody. Hello everyone, welcome in. Let me check something real quick. Alrighty, how was everybody's week? My week was kind of quiet a little bit. I've been struggling with some stuff and a lot of stress stuff. I won't go into too much detail, but like just dealing with a lot of stress and trying to stay focused. And like got a lot of fear about stuff. Bills that need paying, stuff that needs to be dealt with. Just, you know, life stuff. And I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. And it's really funny because, like, the first time, hey, Kimberly, good to see you. How was your week? How was your week, Kimberly? The first time we did one of these raft streams, which is what I was doing before this. I was doing a raft stream. On a collab with Hero Girls channel. We went to like 10 o'clock, and then that made things a little bit rough. I ended at 10 and went to 10:30. Was when I started my stream. And then the last time we did it, I could have swore we had the plan that we were going to end at 9:30, so that way I would be able to get to my stream. Your team won a medal in gymnastics? Nice! Is that a team you're cheering for, or are you on a team that's competing for a medal? But either way, it's still great. You're lurking while drawing? That's great, Kalora. I'm glad to hear that you're here and that you're working on creating something. But yeah, so like last time we did one of these raft streams, we ended, I could have swore it was like we ended at 9:30 so that I could be ready. It's a medal for Team USA? Okay. And so I was planning for that to happen again, right? We end at 9:30. I race off and do the stuff. I set the stream when I was planning for this stream. I set the stream to start at 10:30 because I was like, that gives me time to make food, use the bathroom, do a bunch of other stuff, which I didn't really do a lot of. But then we were streaming today, right? And it was coming up on 9 o'clock, and Hero Girls is like, oh, we're getting ready to, Oh, forever you were watching the rap stream. I don't know how we did it, forever. I don't know, but it's probably a good thing because we missed some plot relevant stuff. I would not be surprised if the game did a thing like, hey, you missed plot relevant things. We're going to like redirect you back to that island. A chihuahua on caffeine sounds pretty chaotic, Noel Main, so I'm really sorry that you're dealing with all that chaos. So here we're coming up on 9 o'clock, and Hero Girls is like, oh, it's time for us to end. And I'm like, 9? I thought we were ending at like 9:30 or 10. And she says, we're doing this for you because you have a stream right after. And I'm like, oh, okay. You'd think if that means that I had it backwards or had it wrong before, what I thought happened. And like, you'd think with them doing something like that for me that I would remember. And I'm really grateful that we ended early. It gave me time to do stuff. And it's really funny. I had a lot of like scattered thoughts that I was going to share. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is kind of disappointed that the USA team did bad on shooting, because that's kind of like our whole thing. Oh, you can't find any references? Oh no, Kalora, I'm so sorry. Okay, speaking of references, I gotta dish something real quick. I gotta share something real quick. So, oh no. So, I'm gonna say something that's going to surprise no one. And then I'm going to say something that you might find a little surprising. First off, I like mechs. I like giant robots. And because I run TTRPGs that usually focus around, I run and play in TTRPGs that usually focus around giant robots, I am always looking for new pictures of mechs online. And I also use them as references and ideas. No, I did not say meth forever. I said mechs. No, not the... like mecha. Oh my gosh, the text is not text to speech. The speech to text captions are making me sound like I'm crazy. But I mean, I am kind of, anyway. Not delving into that. So I like giant robots. And I look for pictures of them to use as references for stories, for imagination and daydreams and ideas and building characters and stuff, and usually coming up with NPCs and things for Lancer and all kinds of stuff, right? I delve into all of that stuff. And I'm always on the hunt for pictures. And what I like to do is when I get a picture, I like to... a picture of a giant robot I like to get the background removed and turn it into a transparent background PNG that I can just import straight into Foundry or whatever, or Roll20 or whatever VTT I'm using. So that way I can use it on a battle map and it looks acceptable and cool, right? I found this website, I think it's like remove.bg, which uses these tools. It might be AI. I presume it's some kind of AI, where you upload a picture and it instantly removes the background. And it there are tools for you to help it select what is and what isn't the background and stuff in order to help with that. And it's just a really handy, really quick tool. But the one thing, it can take JPEGs, it can take PNGs, it cannot take JFIFs, and it cannot take .webps. Now, I understand that WebP files were supposed to be the future of picture storage, right? They maintain maximum resolution while still being really compressed, and they're just the next generation of file. And when they were first released, you needed to have a browser in order to look at the picture, but now most picture viewers can view WebP files, right? But remove.bg doesn't deal in WebP files or JFIFs. So I found an online converter that I could use to convert the files from whatever they are into PNGs, then upload them into remove.bg. I think it's remove.bg. Oh, that's a cool comparison forever. And when that happens, because I'm using online tools to do it, because I tried using GIMP or other like downloadable tools, and it just did not work nearly as well or as simple as just using the online tools, right? But here's the thing that happens. When I do that, I download the image, upload it to the PNG converter, converts it into a PNG, I download it again, then I upload it to remove.bg. I think it's removed. Oh, what's the name? Hold on. Yeah, remove.bg. It works on the stuff, it does the stuff, and then I download it back again. So for every one file that I want, that I get, I'm downloading it 3 times. Now, I normally will delete the first 2 images so that way all I have is the transparent PNG to try to save space. and then I move them into folders and sort them. And I did not always know about the remove.bg tool. So over the course of this week, I was dealing with some stuff where like I was sorting through a lot of these images that I had saved from past campaigns that I did not use the remove.bg tool. I used to use a token maker thing that was like kind of okay, but not really great. It would like cut the thing into a circular token, and it was not great. So I was taking my whole backlog of all these giant robot images that I had on my computer, and all of those were unsorted, right? So I was taking them, I was transforming them into transparent background BGs, transparent background PNGs, and then I was moving them around and sorting them. So it was involved moving files a whole lot. And as I was doing that, I was also looking for other files, and at the end of it all, I have everything much more organized and much easier to sort through, and it's just it looks a lot better, right? It's not just giant robots; it was also fighter planes and spaceships and that kind of stuff, right? And then on Wednesday, I had a thing where I booted up my computer, everything was working fine, and I downloaded the next image that I wanted to turn into a transparent background PNG. And I went to do the thing, and I went to move the file after I'd done all the stuff. I went to move the file to the out of the downloads folder into the folder where I wanted to keep it. File Explorer wasn't working. I was like, what in the world? That's weird. I tried restarting File Explorer. Like, that's really weird. That's bizarre. And I tried a bunch of stuff. And I was on a call with Okusen at that time. So I was like, and Okusen was like, maybe try this, maybe try that. And I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna have to restart my computer. So I did. I didn't just restart my computer. When I turned off my computer, I also power cycled my computer. Well, what happened was, first when I was trying to restart my computer kept hanging up and would not restart. It was on the restart screen for like, because I was just going to do a restart. It was on the restart screen for like 20-30 minutes. Something like that. And I was like, that's really bizarre. And I took that and I had to force shut it off. And then I'm like, okay, since I've already force shut it off, I've cut the power to it. I did what's called the power cycle, which is where you disconnect the power and you hold down the power button for like 30 seconds. You normally only need to do it for like 10 or 11, but I do 30 seconds just to be safe. It's an old trick I learned when I used to do tech support that nobody exactly knows why it works, but it clears a whole lot of electrical issues. But like I said, nobody really knows why it works, but we always suggest it to people as a first thing. When I was in tech support, it was like, that was like one of the first things because it's really simple, really easy, and very like hard to mess up. You just turn off the computer, you unplug it, and then you hold down the power button for 30 seconds. And then you plug it back in and boot it back up. So I did that, and I'm like, okay, what else do I need to do here? I cleared my File Explorer history, and then I'm like, you know what? I haven't done in a long time. Let me defragment my computer, because I remember that used to be a problem when I was a kid, where it was like, if you moved and deleted files, some fragments would be left out of place in the registry and stuff, in the ether of the computer, where and the files would need to be defragmented, where those stray bits and pieces of the files would have to get moved. They get left behind when you move from one folder to another. I'm like, I'm moving massive amounts of files from one folder to another. So maybe I just had a fragmentation problem. So I open it up and I'm like, okay, it says all the drives are good. Doesn't need, like the tool says, doesn't need to be defragmented. I tried doing defragmentation. It's like, yeah, fine. And then it says, there's this one thing on the defragmentation screen that says advanced options. So I do that and it shows these like hidden partitions in my computer. And one of them says it needs defragmentation. So I'm like, okay. So I guess that's just some sub partition of the system. Defragment that. Takes less than a minute. Open File Explorer, everything works fine. Everything is good as new, right as rain. So what I think happened was I was moving so many images between downloading images and moving them from one file to another, from one folder to another, so much that it clogged up my computer with fragmented data that had to be defragmented, and that's why File Explorer was not working. Which just means that I was moving that many images that I overloaded my File Explorer. How defragmentation was explained to me is that when you have a file and you move it from one folder to another, and even when you open it, sometimes when you open it, you pull like a page from the file out and you put it on your desk. What happens a lot of times with the computer is that when you put the folder away, those pages you pulled out on your desk don't always get put back in the folder before they get put away in the computer. And those are the fragments that just sit on your desk that makes it easier if you're accessing it later for you to just be like, okay, well, I already have this thing that I used before on the desk, so it's easier to get to. But then if you delete a file or if you move a file from one folder to another folder, that those fragments get left behind and just become like problem data that clogs stuff up. And that was when I realized I might have a problem. I might have a problem that like I have so many giant robot pictures and spaceship pictures that I was moving around. And because you also remember, for every one picture I was getting, I was downloading them at least 3 times. So I'm like, okay, for every one of those, there was 3 things. Then I would open them to, like, every time I downloaded, I would open it to make sure it worked. So I'm like, yeah, that was nuts. Yeah, it's true geek activities. Actually, let me check something real quick. Let me check something. How big? Well, like my gaming images folder that has a lot of my gaming images and tokens, is only 163 megabytes. But like every picture is like, how big is this picture? Every picture is like 300 kilobytes. So 300 kilobytes into 160 megabytes. It's a lot. There's a lot of images there. And it's funny that you mentioned modern problems require modern solutions. When I was a kid, defragmenting drives was a really big deal. That was a problem with the limited space we had in computers back then. And I remember when my computer would get slow and I would have to, yeah, I'm sure it's much worse for editing and stuff. I would defragment the drive in order to make it work well. I don't know if people remember, they used to have this graphic interface for Windows defragmentation, where it would show these bars, and it would have it would be like a bar, and then on the bar would be lines going from top to the bottom of the bar, and the line would be like red if it was fragmented, green if it was fine, blue if something, and had all these meanings, and then as it was defragmenting, you would see the lines move from one side to the other as it organized and reorganized all of the files on the computer. And it took a long time. Like, I remember it taking like up to like an hour for my computer. I had my family computer when I was a kid to defragment. And my dad did not understand a whole lot about computers. He was not very tech savvy. And I would tell him that I'm on the computer and I'm doing stuff, and he'd be like, "That's not doing nothing. That's just bars moving on the screen. You're wasting time." And I'm like, "No, Dad, you gotta understand, it's important." But it's really funny that like that was a thing back then, and now it takes less than a minute. But it's funny when you talk about modern solutions, because that was like me like 10, 20, like 15, 20 years ago. I don't know, it was more, yeah, about 20 years ago. And I was dealing with defragmentation problems. So it was a blast from the past. Now, I don't know if the power cycling fixed it, because I didn't try it before I did the defragmentation. I really wish the partition that needed to be defragmented wasn't hidden. But you know, you live and you learn, I guess. Anyway, that was my week. Dealing with stuff. Dealing with life. I gotta go run errands tomorrow and get stuff situated so I can pay bills and all that jazz. Gotta get all that stuff sorted. And yeah, but it's coming up on 11 o'clock. For those of you who don't know, I like to spend the first like 30 minutes or so just yapping, just kind of warming up, getting in the moment. Like I said earlier, since I had so much time to prep for the stream, I was like, do I start the stream early? Do I prep? What do I do? And I decided to do something I haven't done in a long time, and make a slideshow. I have OpenOffice, and OpenOffice has their version of PowerPoint, right? So I was like, I could just make a PowerPoint presentation, you know? So I was like, I could just make a PowerPoint presentation, just to share, just to organize some of my ideas and help with organizing a bunch of ideas that I was processing about the homebrew that we're going to be talking about tonight. And I know there are some people in the chat who are very invested in Lancer, and I'm going to say this in the presentation, but I want to reiterate now, I am not trying to say that, hey, Hero Girls, yeah, you're just in time. I'm not trying to say that I think Lancer is a bad system. I think there is no such thing as a perfect system, and every system has its strengths and has its weaknesses. Actually, before we get started, gonna hydrate. I'm glad your mom's feeling better, Kimberly. I'm gonna use the bathroom, and then we're gonna get started with the presentation. Okay, so I'm back. All right, Forever. Hope your pets are doing good, Forever. We're gonna get started. Actually, I'm gonna run a Twitch ad for people who are watching on Twitch, and then when the Twitch ad ends, we'll get started because I don't want the Twitch ad to kick in the middle of the presentation. What I should have done is I should have ran the Twitch ad before I went to use the bathroom. That would have been smart. But yeah, so the thing, like, I have been playing and running Lancer for over 2 years now, right? And I know a lot of stuff about Lancer. I've learned a lot. I've improved a lot as a game master with Lancer. I have a campaign that's been running for over 2 years now. And I think I know the system pretty well. But it's not perfect. And there are things that, like, I wish it did differently. And, like, I'll get into this a little bit. I don't want to get into this too much. I don't want to get lost in this, but it's a thing where I learned to homebrew with Lancer. It's not that I've never homebrewed before, but I learned how to homebrew Lancer, and I was working on homebrews and stuff and interacting with the Lancer community, getting reviews and information on homebrews. And one of the things I kept realizing was I was trying to do things in Lancer that aren't really things in Lancer. I was trying to make Lancer into something that it wasn't. Between the homebrewed mech designs I was working on, the homebrew NPCs and stuff, and it all right, Kimberly, I hope you get to your charger quickly. But I realized I was working on this project to try, because I really enjoy making NPCs in Lancer. Making NPCs in Lancer, plug and play, very simple, very straightforward. Making player characters in Lancer, very complex, very complicated, so many choices and so many combinations. It is overwhelming for me making a player character in Lancer. I have to pick a very specific theme and idea and get, like, blinder vision, only focusing on that one thing just to focus on being a player in Lancer. I have to, like, tunnel vision on one thing in order to make Lancer characters because I get so overwhelmed. And I realized I was working on this idea to try to do Lancer, but with NPC mechanics, to build your Lancer character like an NPC and using NPC features, right? Which drastically cut down on the customization options and drastically simplified so many things and mechanics. And when I talk to people about it, they're like, yeah, that's not really a thing. That's not how that works. These things are balanced differently. And I got, like, a lot of the way through. I sunk, like, multiple days into working on that. And I realized there were some, like, core caveats to Lancer, some core assumptions that Lancer makes as a game that I didn't agree with. That I was trying to write out of the game as I was doing this homebrew, and I was like, maybe I should look for other things. And I just so happened to happen upon this through a YouTube video that I was watching. I was watching a YouTube video where this person, Husbando Homebrew, from the channel My Wife is the MC, was doing a thing on Kamen Rider Eternal and doing Kamen Rider Eternal in D&D 5e, and mentioned about a mech system that they'd worked on. And so I went and I found the video on that. I was like, holy cow, this is amazing. And so ads over, let's switch screens and let's get in the robot. Whoop. So, I made a slideshow, everybody. Let me just turn. Okay. Get in the robot. D&D 5e review. I hope you liked the thumbnail. I kind of threw that together. I think it came out pretty well. So, first question. You already played Lancer. Why? I kind of already answered this, but I will say I have been playing and running Lancer for over 2 years. I've seen what Lancer does well and what it struggles with. I realized that while I like being able to play in a mech setting, I didn't enjoy some of the base assumptions that Lancer makes about the world. And I'm not saying that Lancer is a bad game by any stretch. Actually, let me adjust this slideshow. Let me make the slideshow a little bit smaller so it's not covered with the text. All right. Yeah, I just made this slideshow like 10 minutes ago. So, well, actually not like 10 minutes before stream, not 10 minutes ago. It's been like 40 minutes since we started stream. Been like 36. Anyway. So, what is Gitter? Gitter, or Get in the Robot, is a D&D 5e homebrew that changes the setting into a mech setting. It introduces mechanics and concepts that fundamentally change the world. It isn't tied to a specific mech setting and can be used for almost any type of mech setting. Now, one thing, it's not really designed for super robot shows, for super robot concepts. And as for super robot versus real robot is like our Gundams, well, Gundam was the first real robot, and Armored Core usually falls in the real robot category. And real robot is usually military sci-fi, or like the mechs are realistically portrayed, where it's a sci-fi story that takes science to like the next step of what science would be, and there's normally a lot of like politics and character drama and a lot of stuff involved in real robot shows. That is a lot of what Gitter is based around. Those kinds of like intense stories, at least from what I've seen of it, and those very like realistic kind of representations. At least from what I've seen. I haven't run or played it yet. I have just read it, and I've just read the review of it. I read it. I wanted to show it all with you because I know that my community likes TTRPGs, and I wanted to get more eyes on this game. I might run a playtest of it myself at some point, but I just wanted to see what people thought. Now, that it does not do super robot shows, really, super robot concepts. A super robot show or story is a story where it's essentially a superhero show with robots, a kind of traditional superhero show where you have a lot of the powers and technology isn't super well explained. Stuff is very soft magic system. Stuff works because plot requires it. Random nonsense technobabble if it's included at all. And just power of friendship kind of stuff. This does not seem to be geared towards that. This is also a toolbox that can be as complex or simple as you want it to be, which is one of my favorite things about this homebrew. So I'm gonna pause here for a second. We'll talk about the good, and then I'll go into some more specifics in a second. It has a variable complexity setting where all of the features in the Gitter homebrew will be labeled as like base features and optional features with a complexity number that I believe goes from 1 to 5. And you can choose which pieces you want to have for your setting based on how complex you want the setting. Complexity 1, if you just do the complexity 1 features, it is very much just D&D with new weapons and some things reflavored and some things retooled for mechs. But like, if you know how to play D&D, you can very easily. So their explanation for a necromancer mech is using like nanites to revive the wrecks of destroyed mechs around you. So they use for like healing and revival. They use like nanites and nanotech as kind of the explanation for that. And that's one thing as well. Like the first chapter goes into a lot of stuff about recontextualizing some magic things and D&D things to fit in a mech setting. Now, actually, to answer that question, we are going to mega speakers, exactly. All right, hold on. Where is my... Okay. We're going to pause on this for a second. I'm going to show you. Okay. Hello, Pokeniner. I'm doing a review of a D&D homebrew that I found that is adding, like, converting D&D 5e into a mech setting, like Armored Core, very much based on Armored Core. But that's what we're working on. So, yeah. So the first, so this is what I mean about the complexity levels, about how complex the rule is. So there's the base rules of the system, and then there's the optional rules. Most of the rules are optional rules of varying complexity, right? Complexity level 1 is just like very simple. It's very easy to understand. 2 is it adds a new mechanic, but it's situational in use, frequently referenced, or only requires 1 or 2 interactions between player and DM to function. Complexity 3 is that it adds a new mechanic and a new layer of gameplay that can change the approach to general gameplay, but relatively easy to grasp rules. Complexity 4, it adds a new feature or mechanic that's frequently used, and the rules which will require constant referencing due to needing several interactions between player and DM. And complexity level 5, the optional rule adds an entirely new feature or new gameplay mechanic that interacts with nearly every aspect of the moment-to-moment gameplay, or introduces a new pillar of gameplay, such as combat, exploration, and social encounters, and will need constant referencing and become a natural part of your campaign. I think even at complexity level 5, this is still relatively easy to grasp, but what this allows is for your table to look at these features and see when they're labeled complexity level 1 through 5 and say, all right, we just want to dip our toes in. Let's just do all the complexity level 1 features, right? And one kind of criticism I have is that I really would like if there was a table of contents that just listed. That would be one thing that I would say is like kind of a criticism. I wish there was a table of contents that had all of the, or there might be an appendix at the back, but let me see if there's an appendix at the back. I didn't actually go through. I know there's. We'll get into all this stuff in a second. Nope, there's not an appendix for it. Okay. I would like if there was an appendix or a glossary. I'm not reviewing a bunch of stuff. I'm reviewing this because I found it, and I want to talk about this. This is the kind of the point of tonight's stream, is to go through, review this, and work on building some characters, maybe one or more characters, using this system in order to give examples of what character builds could look like. Yeah. I think if they added a table of contents with like the names of all the feature, or an appendix that had the names of all the features with at least their complexity level and their page number on them, I think would make it much easier to get through. And like if that happened to have the shortcuts that you can put in PDFs where you can click on the page number and it jumps you to the page, that would be great. But yeah, anyway, complexity level lets your table decide how complex you want this to be. And then chapter 1 goes into terminology and taking things from D&D and converting them into mech themed things. And introducing like converting creature types and different terminology revolved to different types of mechs, giving explanations and definitions. Then it goes into magical terminology and goes into a lot of common magical terminology and talks about what that would be in a technical mech setting. I think if I ran this, I would probably run it in a setting that featured both magic and technology. But I don't know what that would look like yet. I really don't know what that would look like. And it's really interesting. They have accelerated damage, which is magic damage. Bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage that is increased by particles or some kind of means where it's accelerated than normal, so it bypasses magic the non-magical weapon resistance. So things that reduce non-accelerated damage would be the equivalent of like reducing resistant to non-magical damage. And it goes through a lot of stuff here in chapter 1. And then in chapter 2, it gives you some stuff about building blocks for building the setting. Like this is like terminology, and then chapter 2 gets into like the world stuff. So basic rule is that you have these new, this is a good example of the optional rules, right? You have these new things where you can convert these skills, religion to astrophysics, animal handling to machinery, arcana to technology. That is the base rule, right? And the complexity level 1 rule, optional rule, is you can just say that you have both options. You can choose whatever you want, right? That's not a very complex thing. That's very simple. It just means you have 2 choices, right? And it increases the number of proficiencies a player can choose by 1, so you can possibly be proficient in both skills. Then here, complexity level 3 is hacker's tools, where essentially becomes a new version of thieves tools to do hacking. And it's kind of like somewhere between hacking and kind of like a spell thing. And yeah, so it goes into these optional rules. And then like the base thing is the tenfold size rule. For this setting, the mechs are 10 times the size of the people, right? So a medium person fits in a 5x5 space and is normally 4 to 8 feet tall. So you multiply that by 10, so it goes to a 50x50 space, and they are between 40 to 80 feet tall. That's not super large, but it is pretty hefty. Now you're going to have a pilot as well. So you'll be doing stuff outside of your mech. So there will be situations where you'll be interacting with mechs on foot, or your mechs will be... Noel Main, in the description of the YouTube video, of the YouTube stream, there should be... Make sure I put it in there. Let me make sure that I put it in there. Yes. There is a link to the video that where Husbando Homebrew explains it, and a link to their Ko-fi store. Now, in the Ko-fi store, you can either pay for it and get the PDF in an editable .docx file, or they have a link where you can get it for free to just get the PDF. So you do not have to pay for this. If you would like to pay for it, that is on you. I definitely always enjoy supporting other creators. I will be honest, I did not pay for it because I don't have the funds for it right now. I don't have the funds to spend on on a lot of things right now. And I would love if people would get more of this and get more support. In their video, in his video, Husbando Homebrew said that he has 2 other things planned. Like, this is like their most ambitious and biggest homebrew thing that they've dealt with yet, right? And he has ideas, a whole set of ideas for building, for making warships, like spaceships in this system, and ideas for making bespoke, custom NPC stat blocks to be used with this system. But he's waiting to see if people show interest. And that was like 8 months ago whenever they did that, so I don't know where they are with it, because I'm a little bit behind the curve on this. This came out like 8 months ago. But if you all, like, one thing I would love would be if people would like go watch their video, get their video views, and let them know that, like, hey, we would love to see those those custom NPC stat blocks or those warship rules or any other stuff with this system. I'd love to see more of it. But yeah, so links to that's in the description on YouTube. I don't have a real place to put it on Twitch. But yeah. Anyway. So there's a tenfold size rule, and then they have different ways to convert a lot of stuff over from D&D to Gitter. And there are these other optional rules that, again, you can pick and mix and match as you want. Right? And they add different levels of complexity. And then here is what I like, is one thing that they do is they what he did was he put, well, I'd say they because it's Husbando Homebrew and MC, which is the name for his wife, and because the channel's called My Wife is the MC, and they have a whole thing there. But what they did was they took all of the classes And they gave explanations or variants about not changing any of the rules about those classes, but how you would change the description. The idea is that all of the players are piloting a mech. So what type of mech are they piloting? What are they doing with their mech? What type of things are there with their mech? There's a fun author's note here for Druid and Wild Shape. And treating it like essentially it's transforming. The mech is transforming into the shape of an animal, and like it has pre-programmed maneuvers to mimic the beast form in conjunction with folding parts and equipment to resemble the intended creature. The one thing is maybe saying that a mech maybe doesn't imitate the animal, right? That it's duplicating. Like, it has all of the abilities of that animal, but no one's going to look and see a 40-foot tall bear and think it's a regular bear. You know what I mean? Or like, no, bears are large, so that would be like 80-foot tall bear. No one's gonna look at an 80-foot tall bear and think it's a regular bear, right? But they're gonna think it's a bear robot, which kind of goes into like the druids essentially become like transformers, right? Now, he suggests in here restricting wild shape to small, medium, large, and huge forms as things with like, going bigger can be justified with like using force fields or magnetic fields to simulate the expanded space beyond the physical confines of the pilot and mecha, and small can still be achievable through like compacting different positions and folding things. I think I would still probably allow tiny, because tiny is only like 10 to 20 feet tall. So I would say probably some like nanites, some compressed space. If I was doing this, I'd probably say it would probably be like some kind of a whatchamacallit, super dense thing or something that you do, or maybe some like hammer space kind of thing where you have a subspace pocket where you put some of your mass when you get smaller. Though once you get past gargantuan, once you get past huge to gargantuan, that just gets ridiculous. But yeah, so like for instance, the bard. Bards use a bespoke tactical AI to provide battlefield support during squad-based operations. So you're providing support for your allies, and they're contextualizing the magic as kind of AI and technology. That's one of the other things that they do here, is like saying that they're in chapter 1 they kind of dealt with that a little bit with converting magic to technology for this setting. Again, you can do a setting where magic interacts with technology, and they have some rules for that, some suggestions for that, about like saying some things work and some things don't if you introduce both magic and technology, which like, so the idea here is this is like the complexity level 3 rule. Magic and technology interaction. So generally, a magic effect doesn't affect a technological effect, and vice versa. So a spellcasting character can't cast counterspell if someone is seen executing a program. Now, programs are the technological equivalent of spells. They call spells programs. So if you have a tech-based spellcaster interacting with an arcane spellcaster, the arcane spellcaster can't counterspell the program. And a spellcasting character can't terminate a technological phenomenon by casting Dispel Magic. And you need a Dispel Magic actual program to terminate the technological phenomenon. Now, certain spells, though, do work, right? With like something. The example they give here is Shield of Faith, right? Shield of Faith, whether it's executed as a program or cast as a spell, is going to give a +2 bonus to AC. So that works. That's just relatively simple, and this comes to one of the things that I'll talk about when I get to some of my like criticisms of the system, is that it requires a lot of adjudication from. It's going to require adjudication from the GM, homebrewing on the fly, and coming up with the rulings as you go as different situations come up, because it's very simple. Even at its most complex, it's still relatively simple, and there's a lot of space to be really flexible with it. Anyway, then it goes into mecha management and all that. So I'll get to that in a second. Let me get to more of listing the good. Variable complexity means it's very new player friendly. You can just choose the base rules and say no optional rules, or only optional rules level 1. Or you can go all in, go whole hog, and say everything up to complexity level 5. And also, one other thing is, just because you're allowing some complexity level 5 rules doesn't mean you have to allow all of complexity level 1 through 4. You can mix and match, and you can pick what you need for your table, what feels right, what works. And yeah, another big plus of this system, it is setting agnostic. It is not, this is Eberron. It is not, this is the world of Lancer. It is not, this is Gundam. There is a really good Gundam D&D 5e homebrew out there, but that is very, very fine-tuned and plugged into the Gundam world, and not just any Gundam world. It's plugged into Universal Century. And I looked at that and I was like, that's not exactly what I'm looking for. Now, one other thing that's really good is it allows for lots of customization options while still meshing with a lot of the tools created by the community for D&D 5e. And that's one thing about D&D 5e that makes it so powerful, is that there is this huge community surrounding it that has developed a variety of tools in order to help players with encounter generation and with coming up with designs and homebrew and stuff. And one thing is that in this setting, right, everything is scaled up tenfold size. So you're not fighting a 3 foot tall goblin. If you're fighting a goblin, since they're small, they would be like, what is it? Like 40 or like 20 feet tall, right? And it's a goblin mech, right? That has a pilot. Or maybe in your setting, you have mech scale monsters, and maybe you're doing like a Pacific Rim setting where the players are piloting mechs to fight monsters that are mech scale, and so you treat those as mechs. But there are so many tools that have been developed between like 5e Wiki, and one tool that I'm going to show off when we get to the character building section is MPMB, which is a really cool, a really cool character sheet builder that like has a lot of tools built in that you can download to your computer, so you don't have to be connected to the internet to use it. And it's really handy. I think it's going to come in real handy for making a character. And then the other thing that's really good with this is, if you know D&D 5e already, then learning this will be very, very simple. It is very straightforward. And the things, I'll get into more of the specifics in a little bit, but I just want to go over like the good. So it is very simple to get into. Now, if there's good, there's the bad. This is not saying this is just general criticisms. Has D&D 5e at its core. So if you dislike D&D 5e, you will probably dislike this. It will probably require additional home brewing and GM adjudication. You're going to be making rulings on the fly. You're going to be coming up with things. But the thing is, if you're playing D&D 5e, you're already coming up with rulings on the fly. You're already coming up with solutions and improvising as you go. Hey, Sean. Good to see you. So this is a joke. This next one is a joke. In the end, there's a complexity level 5 rule, which lets you build your mech where you pick the arms, you pick the generator, pick the legs, pick this, pick that, in order to build your mech. The basic idea is that your pilot stats... Yeah, homebrewing is also fun. Your pilots... So, in the base version of the system... Actually, let me switch over. In the base version of this system, what happens with your character score is your ability scores are the ability scores of your pilot, but they also represent how far you can push your mech. So your strength is your ability to exert physical force in the cockpit and by extension the mech. This can take the form of bracing against resistance of a control stick when the mech's straining against a strong force or having a good sense of leverage to make use of the mech's physical power and output efficiently. So they have explanations for each of these ability scores. And in the base version, it is just if you have strength 18, your mech has strength 18, right? And that's just a straight one-to-one thing, and then, hey, no problem, Forever. We kind of got started without you, but I hope you're not too lost. We're talking about Get in the Robot, this D&D 5e homebrew that I'm reviewing. So basically, in the base version of this system, if you have a score, your mech has that score, and your HP of your mech is not just a measure of how damaged the mech is, but like how battered you get from getting thrown around the cockpit. Oh, I'm sorry, Forever. And in the base version of the game, you just keep track of everything where you only have the one character sheet, essentially. You have your character sheet with your stats. It gets into some stuff later with more of an expansion of the tenfold rule, where it had the tenfold size rule, where mechs are 10 times bigger, where like a medium mech is 10 times the size of a medium person, right? But it also has a whole thing where you get into later where if a mech deals damage to a non-mech scale target, it says non-mechs, but the idea is like if you're punching like a regular like storm giant that's not mech scale, that's not scaled up to the 10 times scale, or maybe you're punching a dragon that's like, you know, large or something, but like regular large, the mech's going to do 10 times as much damage because of the tenfold rule. And then on the flip side of that, a non-mech scale target, a non-mech target doing damage to a mech is going to do 1/10 the damage, rounding down to 0, which means if you do less than 10 damage, you're not doing any damage to a mech. But mechs do damage evenly to each other. Pilots do damage evenly to each other. Like, when I say evenly, I mean just normal calculation. Also, because of the tenfold rule for the 10 times size rule, ranges on weapons and spells and abilities are also multiplied by 10 as well. So a paladin's aura that normally goes for 10 feet instead goes for 100 feet. And you can use most of your features and you have your features, and you can use outside as well as while you're in the mecha, but it only gets multiplied by 10 when you're in the mech. So that's how that works. And it's really, it kind of simplifies a lot of stuff because it means that you can technically take any regular D&D stat block and with some for NPCs or for enemies and monsters and stuff, and with some slight conversions, you can use it to generate a getter encounter. And you have your program slots, so it's your spell slots, your limited class features, and your other abilities and limited uses are shared between pilot and mecha. Anyway, so that is the base way the game works. That is the base way the mechanics work. But when you get to the end, and I'm scrolling really fast, they have a very long list of special weapons, which is really cool. Chapter 4.5. This is complexity level 5. This lets you pick parts that you buy. You get a starting amount to build your mech with, right? And your parts determine your ability scores of your mech, and you would usually use this if you're keeping track of like again, you could keep track of your HP separately, or you could keep track of it the same. But for instance, the civilian tech arms, right? 200 credits. This says strength 710, dex 710. That means in order to use the part, you need to at least have a strength of 7 or a dex of 7, and the most that that part can have as an ability score is 10. And there are different combinations here, right? Of like, some are better at strength, some are better at dex, some are like equal between them, right? For the arms, right? And then there's the cockpits that give you different ways to control your mech. Computer systems that control intelligence, wisdom, charisma, which determine the ability scores of the mech. Generators that determine EP, which is another optional resource, optional rule. Head parts that determine your vision, and if you have special senses. And then your leg parts that determine your movement speed, any special movement abilities you start with, and the capacity of how much weight you can carry, your carrying capacity. My one gripe here is they have no parts for Constitution. So you just use your pilot's con score. And I'm like, I feel like that could be handled differently. I feel like it could very well be a thing where you combine the physical scores, and instead of saying these are arms, say they're like upper body or something, and say that they're since you're not picking right arm, left arm, you're just combining the arms. Might as well say it's like arms and body section, or arms and core, or have a separate core part that is the con score. Also, I just realized something. Hold on. Is there a thing to get over? Oh wow, they doesn't have a thing to go over. Over on wisdom. That's, oh no, there's the sensor away. Okay, yeah. I was about to be like, wait a second. But yeah, I feel like you could do that. You could have a con part. I feel like that's a thing that you could do. And if I run this system, I might homebrew a con part, because I like the idea of picking parts to determine the specific abilities of your mech, and then you can upgrade parts as you go. It gives you something to spend credits on, right? And yeah, so that is one of my, it's more of a joke than an actual complaint, but I feel like there could have been a way to have a con-based part. I feel like there could have been a way to have a constitution-based part. Now, if you are using complexity level 5 with the parts for your mech, you may need to maintain, you probably need, in that situation, you'll need to maintain a second character sheet to keep track of the ability scores and the attacks and the functions of your mech separate from your pilot. So that could get clunky, that could get difficult to keep track of. The character sheet I'm going to show you tonight has a thing where like it already has 2 character sheets built in, where it has one for like a companion or a familiar, and I'm just going to build the mech as the familiar. And the last thing that can be difficult with this is finding mech scale battle maps. Now, of course, you're probably like, well, since a square goes up and 5x5 goes up, you just use a regular battle map. The number of battle maps that you see, even sci-fi battle maps, that include toilets, beds, chairs, tables, desks, chests, and then seeing and imagining those as being mech scale 10 times the normal size. That's a bit much. That's a bit much, chat. So it can be a challenge, but the thing is, you deal with that with Lance, you deal with that with any kind of a mech scale game that uses battle maps. You're going to deal with that. My conclusion. Now, this is not the end of the stream. We're going to go into more specifics here in a second. I think this is a good way to introduce players to a mech setting and can be reflavored to include varying amounts of magic into it. I think there's a lot of potential here. Now, the one thing is the design freedom, because it can be a bit of a hang-up. Your game master might be paralyzed by choices trying to figure out how much complexity they want to have in the game. Because there's a lot of stuff where, like, you say, do we add this rule? Do we not add this rule? And trying to change that mid-game or mid-session might be a bit complex. And of course, we need those warship rules and new stat blocks. That is my conclusion. That is my conclusion that I come to with that. Now we're going to go into more specifics, and we're going to work on building a character or two in this system. Okay? We'll probably try one character that's really simple, right? We'll try one character that's really simple using just the base complexity level rules. And then we'll try one character that's really complicated that uses the custom mech part rule and all of that stuff, right? So we'll probably do like, so we'll see if we can do two. We'll see if we can do two. So let's go through in some more detail. So there's the whole thing with the mech management of the ability scores, your features, and there's another rule that I'm not sure how I feel about this configuring mecha, where like you might find a fully functioning mech in the wild. Like a lucky salvage or something taken from a surrendered enemy pilot, or if you're, for instance, trying to get a new mech or something because your other mech was destroyed or whatever. And this rule introduces a thing where you spend a number of hours equal to your level configuring the mech. Activity can be performed in 1 hour sessions, and you gain access to any class features or abilities available to you at a level equal to the total number of hours spent in configuration, which means after 1 hour of configuration, you can use it as a level 1 mech. So like, here's an example. If you're a 9th level artificer and you spend 3 hours configuring an unfamiliar machine, you pilot it as if you were a 3rd level artificer. Now this applies to features and abilities that you can use. Your ability scores, feats, bonuses, hit points, program slots, and other limited resources you can expend remain the same. Your racial traits are unique to you, and you can use any ability granted you by your race regardless of your familiarity with the mech. So, what this means is it's just your class features, essentially. So you could have a situation, now that I'm thinking about it, where like, let's say you get captured, right? And you sneak out and you have to like steal an unfamiliar mech to get away, right? You have whatever weapons are equipped on the mech, but if you don't have time, if you have time to configure it, if you have an hour, you can perform it at a level 1, but if you don't have time, you have no class features. So you're just raw stats and weapons in this desperate getaway. And then once you get away, you work on configuring the mech later. That's an optional rule. It can be fun. Hey Violet, welcome in. We're looking at some TTRPG stuff tonight. It's going pretty good. I just finished my like kind of slideshow presentation-y thing that I did, going over some of the basics, and now I'm going into more of the specifics, and then we're going to work on building a character. There's also an optional rule for tracking the hit points separate from the pilot. Now, if you're tracking hit points separately from the pilot and the mech hits 0 hit points, right? That means the mech's reactor is getting ready to go critical. I don't know if you joined at the best part, Violet, but So that means the pilot needs to do something. So their death saves are essentially trying to re-stabilize the reactor of the mech so it doesn't go critical. So, like, you have to, like, if you climb into, or if your mech gets taken down and your pilot's still conscious, you make a death save to, as I understand it, you'd make a death save in order to stabilize the mech. Then after you stabilize the mech, you have to succeed a DC 15 wisdom machinery check in order to reboot the mech. And then if you do, the mech's hit points become half the pilot's current hit points. So, like, I like this rule because I feel like it adds to the immersion, but this is part of why I'm like, I feel like there should be some kind of a constitution related part in the complexity level 5 rules. Where, like, you may want to upgrade your part to have better constitution, depending on what you're going to do. Like, yeah, anyway, poison and psychic, there's the significant damage rule, and then there's the poison and psychic damage. When a mech takes poison or psychic damage, the pilot takes that damage instead, but the tenfold rule does not apply. So, like, if someone does 5 poison damage to a mech and you're using this separate mech hit points, that means the pilot takes 5, not 50, because that would just delete the pilot. And then when the mech is struck by a critical hit, the pilot takes half as much damage, but the tenfold rule doesn't apply. Then there's this one. This is one of my favorite. This is one of the more interesting optional rules. Energy points. Your mech's powered by a generator, producing energy through various systems. Optional represents a resource management called energy points or EP. Now, the default energy point rule is that your EP is equal to 5 times your proficiency bonus. But in chapter 4.5, if you're using the generator, if you're using the chapter 4.5 stuff, instead you use whatever your generator's rating is as your current EP. You regain expended EP equal to your proficiency bonus at the start of your turns. You can also regain EP by either 1d10 as a regular action or 1d6 as a bonus action. Or you gain a d10 plus twice your proficiency bonus, or d6 plus twice your proficiency bonus. If you use the optional part rule, your proficiency bonus is replaced by the number indicated by your generator part. Ooh, I didn't see that. What was that? Let me scroll down real quick. This only shows max EP. It doesn't show EP regeneration. I think that might be an old rule. I think that might be a typo. You love making characters? Cool. Because that would mean you just gain all of your EP back. Hold on. Your max EP is instead equal to the indicated number in the generator part. Maximum proficient. But it doesn't show a thing for EP regeneration, and you would just regenerate all of the EP back if you do. That's weird. I think that needs to be fine-tuned. And then you use EP for different things, and if you end your turn with 0 EP, your mech becomes depowered, which means I think you have like things that have advantage against you or stuff. And EP is used for some optional abilities that you have, some optional actions of like boosting or deflecting attacks and stuff, and all of that jazz. And then you have your pilot actions that you can take on your turn. Then there's the optional rule of hijacking mechs. There's repairs and different rules about repairs. Now this one's interesting. Instead of the armor, different armor types, they replace each armor type with an armor material that your thing is based on whether you have light, medium, or heavy. So, and then based on your starting armor, that determines that. And then they have the mech weapons. These are the default mech weapons, right? You'll notice they have regular mech weapons and then they have beam mech weapons. The beam weapons have this EP rating. How the beam weapons work is, in order to fire a beam weapon, you have to have as much EP as is currently listed on the beam weapon rating. So in order to use these dagger beam weapons, you have to have at least 3 EP. Firing the beam weapon, using the beam weapon does not, or using it normally, does not consume the EP, but you can overcharge. I think it's a bonus action. Yeah, as a bonus action, you can overcharge a beam weapon by expending EP equal to its amount. So essentially you expend it, but you still have to have enough to use it. And then the next time you hit with that weapon on your turn, you roll an additional damage dice. And the beam weapons do radiant damage. They add a few other things. So the beam weapons can be overcharged. And they're balanced pretty well for it. They add missile launchers, which have a homing trait, which essentially turns everything into a mini magic missile. Which is kind of funny. So those are the base mech weapons, right? And it adds all these features, all these optional rules. You don't have to use any of these optional rules, but all these optional rules essentially are adding different effects that the weapons can cause. Like for instance, what's a good example? Here's kinetic. This has kinetic. 2 targets, line 400. What's that mean for this cannon? Scroll down here. Kinetic. When you hit with a kinetic weapon, you can deal damage to additional targets as the projectile travels beyond the initial target. The kinetic property lists 2 attributes, the number of additional targets you can select, and each additional target must be another mecha other than the initial target, and the second attribute shows the shape of the area and its range in feet. The area's point of origin is the initial target. The direction of the cone or line faces directly away from you. So you pick 2 targets in that area, and each additional target takes half the weapon damage dealt to the initial target, provided the additional target's AC is lower than or equal to the target's AC. So if you've got enemies in a line and you hit them with your cannon, as long as the one up front has the highest AC or the same AC of the other ones, you can pick 2 targets to take half the damage. Not bad. Now, one interesting thing that it adds, is, where is it? It adds these optional weapons to the weapons list. And it has an optional rule for 2-weapon ranged fighting, right? Which is cool. And then it has different types of weapons. Acid weapons, anti-particle, or essentially necrotic damage, disruptor weapons, freeze weapons, heat weapons, supersonic weapons that do thunder damage, and each of those applies a different status effect, and there's new status effects. But you also have pilot weapons and pilot armor and pilot gear. So you still have to get your pilot stuff. So that's what I mean when I say it can get complicated if you're using the complexity level 5 rules, where like you're keeping track of your pilot and your mech separately, right? And like these things have weight, right? So you're keeping track of your pilot's carrying capacity, which is based off of their strength, versus the mech's carrying capacity, which is based off of their legs. Which is a whole thing. And then we get to the parts. So, I've gone over everything. Here are all of the status effects and the conditions. And these are some EP actions, optional actions you could take: dodge burst, extend boost, hover flight, quick dash, soften landing, that you could take that spend EP. So if you're adding EP, it allows you, now the beam weapons, EP is an optional rule. So if you don't have the EP optional rule, you just ignore the EP rating and you can't overcharge the beam weapons. So anyway, we're gonna make 2 characters. This, what I'm showing you now, is called, I need to put a link to this. This is actually a really cool tool. This is called MPMB. It's a really cool character builder for D&D 5e, and it has a lot of stuff. Let me see. Hold on. Let me. Can you see that? Oh, you can't see it because it opens as a separate window. Okay, so oh, I need to make this PDF smaller. Or just close that. Hold on. That fixed that. Yeah, that fixed that better. Okay. So, what type of character should we make? I'm going to say, let's make a really simple fighter. Just simple, baseline, simple rules. He's a fighter that, maybe he's a soldier background and he's decided to become an adventurer. I don't know about the world. We don't know anything about the world yet, but we'll just kind of build this character as we go, okay? So let me grab. Whoop, 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 whoop. Fighter. Soldier background. Soldier that decided to get in. Oh, decided. Soldier that decided to become an adventurer. Okay, cool. So let's build this character. First, so you can't see it, but I can click on this and bring up a JavaScript window that gives me options. Can I, hold on, can I? Hold on, let me see something, because I'm surprised it's not displaying the JavaScript window. Let me see. That's not the button. There we go. So I can make it pop this up and give me like choices to choose for the character. And I've already preloaded in all of the WotC stuff. Now, when you get this, it only has the SRD stuff. If you get this, I'll have to remember to post a link to this tool for character building. But there's like resources online to get all the WotC stuff. So I'm just going to do a fighter. Okay. So he's a fighter. We're going to use the background. Soldier. What should he be proficient in? What should his second thing he should be proficient in? Because he gets a toolkit. Yeah, I'll just do a gaming set. Some type of game set. Normal dude. To play D&D, Nevermore, need a MPMB. It's a really handy tool. So it fills in the stuff as you go. Like, you haven't played in over 2 years. Oh, goodness. So it sees proficiency bonus 2. It has what things the saving throws are proficient in. It has what skills you start proficient in. You use Roll20. Hey, Roll20 is a great tool. If I was to run a game using this system, using this homebrew, I'd probably run it on Roll20. And it fills you in with all of your basic stuff. Right? So he's a gunner. So like if he's a regular like rifleman, right? He's a fighter. He's probably going to be a better shot than he is with close quarter combat, right? So essentially he's a ranged fighter. So what we're gonna do. Oh, you can do specialty. He's mech infantry. Oh, you can't see the drop-down menu when it pops up. Can you? I don't know if you can. Race. We're just gonna go with basic human. Just basic human. Oh, wait, do I want basic human or do I want variant human? Variant human gives me a free feat. We're gonna do variant human. He's gonna speak cosmic common. Oh, he already knows common. We'll say he speaks. What language should I have him speak, chat? We could do some kind of a. Mechanese. He could speak to mechs. He could speak to automatons. He could speak the automaton language. Ooh, that's some interesting lore. Hold up, that would be cool. He could speak the automaton native language. Okay. Can speak to mechs, can't speak properly to humans. Ooh. So I'm imagining maybe Mechanese isn't just like talking to the mechs, because I don't know if I want the mechs to be sentient, but maybe there's like a race of automatons that start as like servants, but like they've created their own culture. Like they've broken off and created their own culture, and he can speak their native language. What does that say about him that he can speak the native language of this automaton race? Right? And he's more comfortable around them than he is with humans. Nabiru, actually. What if, because he's infantry, he's a grunt. He does what he needs to do, right? And he speaks Mechanese because he was stationed with or he was in charge of other automatons. He was in charge of, he was working with automatons. He was working with, maybe in their world, it's a thing where like they have one soldier working with like a team of like 5 or 10 automatons, right? And he has to communicate with the automatons in order to like command them and lead them. And the automatons are like mech scale automatons. So they're like titans or something. So he can talk to mechs. And he's more comfortable around the mechs because he knows them. He understands them. They have a logic he can process. I'd imagine in a world with like with mechs that could be used for that, for warfare, you'd have to be right, Violet? I'd imagine in this so in a world where they have mechs that are used for warfare like that, I'd imagine it'd be a thing where like he's got to be really poor or really unskilled or something, really simple in order to get stationed with the mechs, with the automatons. Like, or maybe he's just really skilled. I don't know. Serve with sentient mechs. Understands their logic. Skill proficiencies. Okay, so now I gotta choose my ability scores. Chat. Ba 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 ba. I'm gonna say he has high dexterity. Right. High dexterity. So I put the 15 in there. His 14 is going to go in Constitution. $13 is going to go in 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8. Okay. I have to do 12. And then he's got a 10 in strength. $15, $14. Yeah, intellect and intelligence and wisdom are different. So his weakness is charisma. He's not a very charismatic fighter. But intelligence is another thing that fighters use a lot of. Okay. Okay. All right. So now he gets... Okay. I get to choose two between acrobatics, animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, perception. I'm gonna choose, so animal handling. Animal handling is getting replaced with mech. That was one of those things, right? We're doing the complexity level 1, really simple build. So none of the special weapons properties. So animal handling becomes replaced with machinery. Okay. Which fits him because he's dealing with the mechs, right? So that's 1. Give him insight. Maybe give him acrobatics. Yeah, I'll give him insight. Or survival. Survival's a good one for him. He's used to surviving in difficult situations. And then he gets 1 anything. I'm going to say he's got up in Arcana. Yeah, acrobatics is interesting for like doing... You can do a lot of stuff with acrobatics. But survival sounds good. All right, Kimberly. Good night. Have a great night. Hope you have a great weekend. Okay, so there's the skills. Got ability scores, skills. Now just got to do equipment. What? Starting armor? Does it show me? Can I see? wish it showed me a thing to tell me what armor I can get for my starting armor. There's the mech equipment. Thanks, Kimberly. It was good to see you. What am I looking for? I'm looking for... Oh, I gotta open up. Gotta open up. Hold on 1 second. Let me pull up what the fighter starts with. It's been so long. All right. Starting equipment. Either chainmail or leather armor. And a longbow and 20 arrows. So leather armor. Longbow, 20 arrows. So, let me check something down here with the pilot armor. The stuff for the mech operations. Give me 1 second. I will be right back. I need to do something real quick. I just saw what time it is. Give me 1 second. Chat, I'm back. I'm back, chat. Oh, we didn't lose anybody. I had to go check some stuff because it was after midnight. I had to check some stuff with my whatchamacallit, food stamps and stuff. Okay. Anyway. So, oh, I was looking up what they do for starting. I think I'd probably, hold on. So starting weapons, hold on, starting weapons and armor. Oh, so you get equivalent to pilot and mech armor. Okay. Okay. So leather is going to be Corvette Steel Mark 1, which is 11 plus dex. So it gets leather. Longbow. Two martial weapons. And a light crossbow with 20 bolts. So we'll do the two martial weapons. Which we're gonna have to manually put stuff in. Actually, let me look at the longbow on the Husbando Homebrew. Oh, the light armor. That's another thing I guess you would have to keep, even in the base game, that's something you'd have to keep track of separately though. Your mech's armor versus your armor, because some people might not invest in getting armor for themselves the same way they get for their mechs. And yeah, I guess that could work. Anyway. Longbow, that's what I was looking at. Standard longbow mecha. Ammunition. Why is M not working? Oh, it's not M. It can only be so long. The name can only be so long. Okay. Okay. We're not dealing with, since this is the basic build, we're not dealing with the piercing. We're not dealing with the breach. And then gets 20 arrows. They have, well, that's not the button I wanted. You see, from the starting class, you could choose a weapon of the same proficiency group to get her. Oh, okay. Choose a weapon of the same proficiency group and weapon type from the getter weapons table. Okay. So instead of a longbow, I can choose any martial ranged weapon. Okay. What do I want here? What martial ranged weapons do we got? Got the bazooka. Also, cartridge is what they use instead of ammo. Well, some things have ammo like arrows, right? And most of the guns have cartridges. The regular ones. And cartridge is essentially another thing for ammo, but they do it a different way. They do it interesting. So cartridge is you have X number of, it'll be cartridge plus a number, depending on how big the weapon is, right? Generally, higher damage weapons have lower cartridge numbers. And you use up, when you've used up all of a cartridge, you can't shoot until you reload. You can swap out a cartridge, you can discard a cartridge and put in a fresh cartridge at the start of your turn as a free action, right? But you can only do that once. And any unspent shots in the cartridge are just lost if you do that, right? And as a standard action or a bonus action, you can manually change the cartridge. I would probably let someone take a version of the crossbow expert feat in order to be able to change the cartridge mid fight, mid shot. I'd probably let someone do that for that. But in that case, what do I want? He's a gunner. See, a part of me wants to just get the base rifle, but that's a simple weapon. Right? And I don't want him to be a sniper. I could have him be a sniper. Sniper, single shot, just ammunition. That's funny. But it's loading. Oh. So, yeah, you're only doing single shots with that. Yeah, let's do the sniper rifle. Let's do sniper rifle. How do I change? It's not letting me change the thing. The manually change the thing. Probably. Okay, that's one thing that I don't like about this is that it doesn't let me change the damage. Guess I'll just oh, I can just choose a great axe. Then just change the range. Okay. Sniper rifle. Dex, proficient. Piercing. Ammunition. Loading steady. Is that a... That is a default one. Okay. So we'll say... Come on. Ammunition loading steady two-handed. Okay. Cool. So got the sniper rifle with 20 shots. Okay. So that's that. Next up, he gets 2 martial weapons. Cool. Gonna grab melee weapons. Gonna grab a melee weapon just to defend himself. So let's look at a martial melee weapon, something with finesse. The right answer would be some kind of like a rapier. A rapier and a short sword. Yeah, rapier and a short sword. Okay. And light crossbow with 20 bolts or 2 hand axes. Light crossbow is a simple weapon. I'll probably choose a rifle. Need to buy some cartridges for it, but yeah, just a regular rifle. Rifle is a D6, so that's going to be... What's a D6 range? Well, I can just choose a... D6 piercing. Hello? Okay. Okay. I'll say since it's the equivalent of 20 bolts, so I'll say 7 rifle cartridges. Seven rifle cartridges. Okay. So that's the weapons. That's the armor. What else do they get? They get a fighting style and second wind. Let's choose that fighting style. I'm going to choose ranged attack. Okay. Very high accuracy ranged attacks. Cool. Awesome. Outstanding. Not using any of the optional rules because this is the simple build. Rifle cartridges cost a single rifle cartridge costs 50 credits, which is like an electrum or like a half a gold. Not electrum, but a single rifle cartridge which only has 3 shots cost half as much as buying 20 bolts. So that means for the 20 bolts I could have got, I would have gotten 2 rifle cartridges. That's not great. Snipers don't use cartridges, they use... Oh, there's an edit here. Snipers don't use cartridges, they use ammunition. Unless it's supposed to be a cartridge of 1. Yeah, it's supposed to be ammunition. That's another typo. Anyway, I think we have a character built. Still got to get, like, pilot gear. But the mech is built and could run with this. This is extra equipment, other holdings. All right. What should we name this character? He's got a sniper rifle, a regular rifle, a rapier, and a short sword. And he wants to be dealing damage really, really far back. So he's essentially a caster. He's essentially a caster. That sniper rifle is nasty. And will delete most starting enemies. All right. So that was the low complexity character. We'll just call him... What do we call him, chat? We'll call him Jim. Call him Jim. I want to save. I want to save as. How do I save as? want to save as... Oh, it saves it separately. Okay. Okay, you're not seeing that. Okay. Real quick, let me just switch to this real quick while I'm saving the file. No, that's not the button I want. My computer. Where is... Could have swore I put... I thought I made a folder for this. Huh. That's funny. Make a new folder. Didn't even determine his HP. But his HP would be 12 because he has +2 to his con. Okay. All right. So that was the simple character. That took a while because I haven't made a D&D character in a while. And I was moving between things. And I had to look up what stuff did what. But I feel like now that I've brushed off some of the dust here, and also some stuff with like just working with this character sheet was part of it as well. I think working with this character sheet was also part of it as well. Now we're going to make the complex character. Ooh, Silas is a good name, Violet. Hey, all right, Forever. Come on. Cut me some slack here. Now we're going to make... Well, that was arguably more complex because I had to look up the different weapons and I had to learn how to edit the weapons. I think that was more growing pains of learning how to edit the weapons and stuff. But you know what? I'm going to try something different for this next one. I am going to try... Instead of fighting with all that, I am going to try a basic D&D 5e form fillable character sheet. All right. We're going to try basic D&D. We're going to put everything in manually. Actually, no, this doesn't have... This is the opposite of what I want because this doesn't have... No, this is not what I want. Never mind. I did it backwards. I should have done the simple one on the simple character sheet and then do this one on this character sheet. So I did that backwards, chat. Sounds and looks horrifying. All right. This time, we're going to make a wizard. Oh, I'm glad you're here forever. Okay. All right. Background. We'll choose like what you call it, the hermit. Yeah, choose the hermit. Language gained. What Oh, I didn't even choose a feat. I didn't even choose a feat for Jim. Probably would have chosen crossbow expert to deal with the loading property. Keep it simple. Let's do a high elf. Ability scores. Want intelligence to be the big one. Oh, well, that's not the button I wanted. Okay. $15, $14. Need to put the 13 somewhere. I'll put the 13 in Constitution. And the 10 in Charisma. Okay. Okay. We'll do the skills later, because that was the one thing that took me the most time, was deciding the skills, I think. Well, that was one of the things that took up a lot of time. Because I would choose Arcana. Arcana and history, because Arcana. The Brainiac, this is a hacker character, because remember, in this setting, a wizard is like someone who hacks reality, right? No armor proficiencies. Daggers, darts, slings, quarterstaffs, light crossbows. And in the rules, it says since you only gain specific proficiencies. Hold on, there was a rule for this. When you take a class that grants a specific weapon proficiency, rather than gaining proficiency in simpler martial weapons, just like 2 weapons from the Gitter table. Okay. Gain proficiency in selected weapons. Okay. So probably going to choose... instead of crossbow, light, gonna choose handgun and rifle. Yeah, handgun and rifle. Efficiencies. Handgun rifle. Okay. Unarmored. 12 AC. And then weapons don't super matter because it's going to be about spells. So I'll just grab a rifle, which is essentially a short bow. And club? No. Hand axe. No, it was. What's he got? He doesn't have simple weapons. Maybe choose handgun instead of rifle, handgun, and what's finesse here? Dagger already got, so maybe handgun and dagger. Yeah. Handgun's a short bow, so handgun and dagger. Okay. No, rifle's a short bow. Handgun is sling? No. It's a short bow with less range. 300, 1200. Well, this is the max complexity, so we definitely are doing with the breach. Short bow. This is the handgun. This should not be going on this character sheet. This should be going on the other character sheet. Oh my gosh, I just realized I put the mech thing on the character sheet. This needs to go on the mech character sheet. Oh my gosh, chat, I think I don't think this character sheet's worth it. It's so complex. It makes things so much more complex, chat. Just fighting with the drop-down menus. If I see another drop-down menu, my eyes are going to go nuts. You know what? You know what, chat? It's not even the system that's complex, because the system itself is relatively simple. This character sheet I'm using has all these bells and whistles. I think that character sheet was what was making it rough, which isn't a really good representation of the character. But anyway, I think the system is really good. I want to do some play tests with it coming up soon. Or some point in the future. As for a little bit more expanding on why, I feel like the part at the end where you can customize your mech. You can customize your mech and keep track of like different things with the arms and legs and body. The pilot stuff, like the simple one, was relatively easy. That one was fine. That one was fine. And was an interesting character. Let me look for something real quick. Hold on. Ba, 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 ba. I guess you would just use two character sheets. Ooh, this is a good one. I found one that was like, it's a simplified. Hold on, let me look at this. Yeah, I think if I do this again, I'm gonna just make two character sheets, two separate character sheets, instead of trying to fight with it. The fact that like I have to like, it's one of those things where like how do I put this? You know how sometimes it's easier to do something yourself than it is to fix somebody else's partially done work? That's kind of what happens here because so many things don't fit and have to be recontextualized, especially with the weapons and the armor. I feel like doing it from blank would be fine. You know, I don't want to okay. I am going to try this one more time. But yeah, it's not that hard. We built one character, chat. I said I wanted to build at least one character, chat. Wizard 1. Hermit. Elf. $15. $12. So the 14 is going to go on wisdom. Okay. We'll deal with saving throws and skills later. Got those set. Now, for building the mech, what you need to do, let me switch over here to looking at this. This is all we need is the ability scores for actually building the mech. That's all we actually need. The whole stuff with all of the other starting weapons and equipment, that's not super relevant. This whole thing with the weapons for a wizard, not super relevant. Armor, no armor. Let me try doing this over here. Okay. Features and traits. I'm going to put features and traits. I'm going to put mech stuff over here. Mech. So, for the mech, you want high intelligence and decent wisdom and high dexterity, low strength. Let me show you. So this is the basics of getting a built-up civilian mech. I added up the cost and the parts for making a mech. You have 5,000 credits to build your mech, which is like, I think it's like 50 platinum or something is the equivalent. It has a conversion between credits and standard gold, right? And just getting the minimum parts to actually have a complete mech, because you have to have all the parts, right? Comes out to this. But this gets you tens in everything, right? What you want is first you need a better computer system that's going to be better intelligence, and wisdom. So you're going to need computation internals. Actually, don't need computation internals. You could use computation internals Mark 1, not Mark 2. That's 800 credits. So that is 800 credits. So that's an extra 550. 550. That's 1950 credits so far. And that is negligible weight. So then you want armor, you want arms, that'll give you your better dex score. Better dex score is going to be $15, $13. Yeah. Precision Builder Mark 1 arms. Which costs an extra 300. Okay. That leaves almost 50% of the stuff. Can't get a new cockpit. Can get a new generator to get more EP. And or get better legs. Let's get better legs. Get mass production legs. Cost another 400. Okay. And you get to keep the credits you don't use. Okay. That's neat. Okay. Let's look at the weight. The weight here is definitely under the minimum. Civilian standard head. Oh, get a better generator. Mass production generator. So I could use more EP for maneuvering. $3,150 EP. 3,150 EP. 110 ton. No, that's not. I have to recalculate the weight. $20, $26, $26, $106. $111, 122 tons out of 950 tons of carrying capacity. That's still fine and built for the stats that you want. And with lots of carrying capacity for carrying excess materials. And left with 1,850 leftover mana or credits. There we go. 18, which is not a bad carryover. Copy. That means the mech's able to replicate all of his stats, and he has extra mana left over for other parts. Build your character sheet with, build your other stuff. He's got good movement and a good carrying capacity, which is really funny. Which is really funny. And get a little bit extra HP. So that's how you build the mech. You pick your parts that match the stats you want. And now that I've actually done it with picking the parts, since you're trying to match the parts to the stats that you already picked, it kind of gets a little bit, I don't want to say redundant, but like a little bit reductive. Because like, I don't know if reductive is the right word. Now that I've actually done it, now that I've actually built it, I think it might be easier just to go with the simple version where you just use your stats. I don't think I would go for complexity level 5 now that I've actually seen it in action. But like, that's an option. And if I wanted to for building that character, right? I could have chosen to cut down on the, what were the more expensive parts? Cut down on the legs and the generator. Yeah, cut back the legs a little bit, the generator and the arms to be cheaper, and I could have gotten the dark vision helm. The helm that gives you dark vision. But yeah, I hope I've done a good showcase of the system. I hope I haven't turned anyone off of the system. I think it has a lot of potential. A couple things here and there that need to get tweaked a little bit. And I'll probably ask the developer for some questions just about like for clarification, like the whole thing with the generators. The whole thing with the generators and the sniper rifles. Because the snipers don't have a cartridge, they have ammunition. But I don't know. I might do a solo RPG of it. That could be fun. Do a solo RPG, build a character, run them through adventures using their mech. Build an entire sci fantasy world. Yeah, it could be fun. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Normally I go for 3 hours. And we've just crossed the 3-hour mark. And I think tonight's stream went pretty well. I hope you all had fun. I hope you all had a lot of fun. Yep. I don't know. I might revisit that soldier character. That soldier character is like kind of interesting. Like a character who like I don't know. Did you all like, what did you all think of the getter system, the get in the robot system? Would you like to see me do more content about that? Would you like to see more content related to get in the robot? Seemed interesting? Okay. You think that'd be fun? Okay. I'll look at possibly doing some stuff. Ah, sorry. Had to get something to drink real quick. Actually, now that somebody was talking about Roll20 earlier, give me a second to check something real quick. Let me check something real quick. And I'd probably use Roll20 if I used anything for running a game. Why does my Roll20 keep changing the language to Spanish? Hold on, let me Google this. Username. Scroll down preferences. Okay. That's my profile. Oh, as soon as I change my profile, it did instantly change. Okay, create new game. Let me see something real quick. I want to see if I could create D&D 5e game. Hold on, let me see something. It even has my thing for English. Okay, that's weird. Okay, anyway, my games. Let me see what it looks like with making a character. I haven't done D&D 5e through I haven't done D&D 5e. It's funny. I've done so many things through Roll20, but I don't think I've done D&D 5e before. I've done Mutants and Masterminds. I've done tons of Mutants and Mastermind stuff through there. Let's see what we got here. Great character. Okay. What's this character? Okay. Yeah, I could use Roll20 for this. I could use Roll20 for this. If I could get the language to stop bugging out. I don't know. I'll talk to my friends. See if I can find anyone who's interested. I don't know. I still have to do that perfect draw game that I've been working on for like months. But then my entire life went crazy. My entire life went butt over face, flipping over, rolling around. With the move and with everything else, the last few months have just been so crazy. And I've just lost a lot of motivation. Not that I dislike perfect draw, but just I've lost a lot of motivation for stuff. Anyway, let's wind down for the night. If you all say that could be fun, I'll see about doing possibly other content. But my review, it's not a perfect system. It's simpler. It has variable complexity. It lets you build your mech how you see fit. If you choose the complexity level 5, you can do some interesting stuff with it. And I don't know, I would say that there's definitely some interesting things. And also, as far as magic items in this system, magic items are called prototypes, and you equip them to the mech. I think the biggest thing that is the most interesting thing about this system is the massive variety of weapons. There are so many weapons for marshals to use that can impose so many different status effects. There are so many things you can do to impose different status effects and different situations and different things to your enemies. That it's huge. Now I think there were rules to let spells be able to do that too. Let me see that. I think the equipment stuff is where it gets most complicated. Everything else is pretty straightforward, but the equipment is where it gets kind of complicated with having the mech equipment and the pilot equipment. But like having the different weapons that cause the different status effects is definitely really cool. Where is that rule? I could have swore that rule was in here for like causing different status effects if you use different elements. Which adds a lot of variety to spellcasting too. But even without that, like, it's fine if the marshals have it, because like marshals have a lot of stuff. Marshals don't have a lot of stuff sometimes, like as far as like having crowd control and other effects. So having marshals being able to apply status effects with their weapons So let me go over how that works real quick before I wind down. So the status effects that they have on there, like slashing 2 or like piercing 6. What that means is when you roll the damage die, if your damage die hits the number on the thing, it does the effect. So like this is a war pick, piercing 6, D8. So if your D8 rolls a 6 or higher, you do the piercing effect. And you go down here to the piercing effect. Where is it? I think that's supposed to be breach, not piercing. Oh, breach, piercing 5. Okay, it's the breach is the name of the effect. So you get breach if you hit 5 on the die, right here, pile bunker. You cause the breach effect if you do 5 piercing damage off of the die. Go down to the breach property. When you hit with a breaching weapon, the number you roll in the damage dice is equal to or greater than the number indicated on the breach property. The target suffers the condition until the end of your next turn. If the target's immune to piercing damage, it's also immune to the breach condition. So you go down here to the Appendix A and look at what the breach condition is. And there's all these conditions that the weapons can apply. Breached. A breached mecha's movement is reduced by 100 feet, which is essentially 10 feet reduction. So 2 squares. There's corroded, and there's crushed, and there's deflected, and all these things that last until the start of your next turn. So I think this setup gives the marshals some really interesting mechanics on their weapons, and every weapon has something, right? Every weapon has something. I think even the beam weapons. Well, the beam weapons have the EP thing where they can do extra damage. Yeah, so the beam weapons can do extra damage, but then everything else has like kinetic or breach or deflect. So that's something I like. I feel like marshals get left behind a lot in utility, especially in the late game. So having weapons that aren't even magic weapons, just regular weapons that allow them to do stuff is really cool. And then once you get into magical stuff, like you can homebrew so many magic weapons or special magic weapons for this. Like imagine a pile bunker that like, +1 pile bunker that instead of having breach piercing 5 had breach piercing 4, right? So you're more likely to cause the breach condition or something. There's a lot of stuff you could do with it. And I think that's the other thing at the core of this. It is a good starting point. It is a jumping off point and a good toolbox to use for creating your own world and your own game. But it's not like it doesn't have all of the answers, but it gives you the tools. And that's what I like about it. I also really like setting agnostic games. Not gonna lie, I just really like setting agnostic things. Having done Lancer and felt pigeonholed by so much of the setting, right? I have had a player come to me and be like, hey, here's this thing related to my character that's based on the lore. And I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't plan for that. But that's part of the Lancer lore. And even though like you can say, oh, that's not part of my world, you have to deal with creating expectations. Anyway. Let's get to the wind down. Okay, so chat. For those of you who don't know, I like to say positive things about my viewers. Speak positivity, hope, and joy into the lives of everyone. Actually, let me run an ad. I want to run the ad because I don't want the ad to run while I'm in the middle of doing my outro. Okay. Ad's almost over. I was talking to a friend of mine about it, and she was like trying to talk to me about doing Pathfinder 2e. And the thing is, I'm not super enamored with Pathfinder 2e. I feel like it's a bit more crunchy than I want in the ways I don't want. You have like, I don't like systems where like I would rather a system say create your own feature than a system say here is this massive list of features to choose from, right? If a thing is just like create your own feature and here are the parameters like mutants and masterminds or prowlers and paragons, right? That I can do. Like, okay, I'm gonna create a simple feature. It does this. And it's like if I wanted to play a game where I had infinite customization, right? As mechanical customization, I would probably play something like Prowlers and Paragons or Worlds in Peril, where like you create your powers, right? And yeah. Not that anything's wrong with Pathfinder 2 or any Pathfinder game. There's not anything wrong with it. It's just I see so many people talking about it as the answer to D&D. Everything that's wrong with D&D is right with Pathfinder, and I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. I might build a warlock. Try building a Hexblade warlock. With Gitter. Anyway, so I'm going to shout out to everybody who was in chat. We had Nabiru, Forever, Jesus, Noel Main, Anime Lover. Somebody say something? I see I got a new message. Yeah, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But Noel May, Path, Anime Lover, Kimberly, Kalora, LeMay. Oh, I didn't know LeMay was here. Hero Girls was here. That was great having Hero Girls come in. Pokeniner. Superstar Sean Arnold. Violet. Nevermore. And anyone, I say to all of you who I've mentioned and shouted out so far, to anyone who watched the stream and didn't say anything in chat, to anyone who watches this VOD afterwards, I want to say, I love all of you. I believe in each and every one of you. I think that you all are truly precious, one-of-a-kind individuals, that you make this world a better place by living in it in your own unique way. I believe that you are valuable, worthy of love, deserving of happiness and good things. You matter. Your hopes, your dreams, your fears, and your concerns are valid and worthy of notice. Thank you for giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I appreciate all of you being here. And if words. Always remember the Star Hunter motto: shoot for the stars, have wonderful adventures, live your dreams, and always stop to enjoy the memes. Hey, I'm glad to have you. If you want to get the Gitter system for yourself, there's links to the Ko-fi store where you can get it. You can either buy it or there's a link for you to get it for free. Buying it supports Homebrew, Husbando Homebrew from My Wife is the MC YouTube channel, which he's the one who, like, they're the ones who developed the system. And definite shout out to them. Thank you to them for making this system. I want to get them to get more attention on this system because I believe there's a lot of great ideas here that could be really well developed. And I hope that, like, we can tell them, because they said, you know, put in the comments of our video, which I put a link to the video, if you want to see these new expansions of, like, whatchamacallit, of new stat blocks and warship rules. I think that'd be really cool. So if you wanna head over there to their video, check out their video, and leave a comment over there saying that to them. That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. And if any of you wanna, like, support them and get the thing, that'd be really cool. But yeah, really fun stuff. I'll see what other content I can cook up. This is, I mean, also, I've learned about this game system literally 3 days ago. So I'm like, no, I learned about, like, 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. So I am still learning a bunch of stuff. I think if I played with it a lot more, I'd get more familiar with it, and I'd be able to, like, get better at building stuff. I think once I get more familiar with it, I could do better with it. But for having only learned about it a few days ago and only read it through, like, once, I think I have a pretty good grasp on it. I'm confident I could, after reading through it once and going through it, I'm confident that I could play it. I'm not super confident about running a campaign in it. I could probably run a one-shot. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I asked that if you have any friends or aunts or uncles or enemies or frenemies, co-workers, neighbors, anyone you think might enjoy my content, feel free to show them my content and invite them to the next stream. Next stream is going to be Monday, 8:30 p.m. EST. Don't quite know what I'm going to be doing, but that's going to be the next stream, and I will see you all there. If you want to keep up with what I'm doing, you can subscribe on YouTube, ding the notification bell, follow me on Twitch. That'll let you know when I go live, when I release any new content. But the best way to keep up is to follow me on Twitter or X or Blue Sky Social, or liking my Facebook page, or joining my Discord. I post whenever I go live over there, so because YouTube's getting weird about notifications, so that's the best way to find out about that. And yeah. One last thing. You do not have to donate to be here. You are not expected to give money to be a part of this community. I value your time, your attention, your energy. I value having you here. And but with that said, I do appreciate the people who do donate to help make things possible, to help me do a number of things in my life and make things possible for me that would not normally be possible for me. If you ever feel motivated to donate to improve the stream, to improve my life, to help me out with any number of things, and it is financially safe and responsible for you to do so, there are links where you can do so down below in the description on YouTube and the donate button on Twitch. On YouTube, the links are to Ko-fi and PayPal. PayPal, you can do a one-time donation. Ko-fi, you can do a one-time donation as well, or do a monthly donation. If you're doing a one-time donation, I do prefer you do it through PayPal because I get more of the money. And as for the monthly donations for Ko-fi, on my Ko-fi store, there is, or not Ko-fi store, my Ko-fi page, I don't have rewards for those yet. It's more of just like if people want to say that they want to help me out with any number of things and just be helpful and give a tangible representation of how much they appreciate me. I appreciate all of the people who do that. And then the donate button on Twitch just takes to the Ko-fi store. Anyway, let's wind down. Let's say good night. And thank you all coming. Thanks for being here. It has been great having all of you here. And have a good one. Let me make my model wave.